We have new episodes dropping every other week. You can find them early on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or wherever you find your podcasts, or find the link below for our Megaphone landing page, and we will see you around the campfire.
Hey, I'm Jess,
And I'm Paul.
and welcome to Campfire Ashes. Now gather round, pull up a log, and let me tell you a campfire story. It's not enough that I've never been a great sleeper. Even in my earliest memories, I can recall late nights listening to music from my nightlight music box for hours before falling asleep, long after mom and dad read me a story, kissed me goodnight, and left me in my room. Nap time was always my favorite time of the day because I actually slept. My internal clock just doesn't align with the sun. When the moon is out, I'm awake. I'm productive, I'm functioning, I'm alive, but I'm not sleeping. This night was no different. I couldn't sleep, absolutely restless, tossing and turning for all eternity. Only this night, I had a reason for sleeplessness. I was experiencing an allergic reaction to an antibiotic that caused discomfort and itching. So much itching. Finally, I couldn't stand it any longer and I popped a Benadryl. Before this, I'd only ever taken Benadryl once. My sinuses were stuffed so badly, I was craving relief, and a coworker mentioned trying antihistamine. I don't suffer from allergies regularly, so I didn't have any allergy medication on hand. My coworker gave me Benadryl, told me to wait until I was home to take it because it usually knocks her right out cold, and sent me on my merry way to a night of living hell. Unbeknownst to me, Benadryl has adverse effects on my mind body connection. After that one time, I swore I would never take it again. Then tonight happened. If I had any other options for relieving this unbearable itch, I would have taken them. But the only thing I had in the medicine cabinet this night was Benadryl, and I was desperate. I told myself what happened last time was just a fluke and washed the pill down with some water. I laid back into my pillow, closed my eyes, and willed myself to rest. Ignore the itching and rest. Deep breath in, then back out. I never realized how terrifying sleep paralysis was until I experienced it for the first time. Eyes wide open, brain functioning enough to think, but not to get the body moving. A cognitive prisoner in your own flesh vessel. This time, though, was the second time I'd experienced sleep paralysis. So when my eyes sprung open and I saw him looming in my bedroom doorway, I didn't even try to get up. I knew I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. This shadowy silhouette in my doorway, with the wide-brimmed hat, has returned to elevate my heart rate so high I could have a heart attack at the ripe age of 27. He doesn't have a face, but I can feel this form staring at me. He doesn't make a sound, and I can't even say for sure if he moves. But every second I spend stuck with him, I feel as though he's getting closer. You know those dreams where you're running down a long hallway toward an exit, but it never feels like you get any closer, like you're just running in place as this tunnel stretches further and further, the door eventually going out of sight? This is a similar but different feeling. It felt like the longer I stared at this faceless figure, the closer and closer he felt to me, and the farther and farther away my physical body felt. And just as fast as this episode came on, off he went. He stepped back out of my doorframe, out of my natural line of sight from that position in my bed, and my eyes closed. I woke up what must have been hours later because the sun was out, and I was fully able to rub my eyes and sit up in bed. My first encounter had gone the exact same way. the exact same way. I spent some time after that first encounter wondering if this was an omen come to warn me of danger in my fully waking life, or something had been plaguing my mind, and it needed me to know that maybe that was for a reason. But I ended up brushing this experience off as a really strange dream. I wasn't willing to accept it as sleep paralysis. I'd convinced myself that I'd instead lucid dreamed. But I hadn't yet learned to control my dreams, and I still don't know how to do that. So I was stuck until I gave up and I closed my eyes to reset or wake up. But it wasn't until the second encounter that I was ready to accept this for what it was: sleep paralysis. The very little knowledge I have surrounding sleep paralysis is that it's commonly associated with a demon or a figure looming over you, touching you, or sitting inches from your face, weight on your chest, to scare you until you fall back into REM sleep and wake up. But these two instances for me weren't like that at all. They were basically the same instance, just two separate times. And after all that, the only thing I can say for sure is, if the only allergy meds I have on hand are Benadryl, I'd rather take my chances with the allergies.
I was almost about to write with this story, so I know who you're talking about. I've actually done research on this, but I'm going to let you do it because it's your story. But like, I was like,
wait, this will be great because then if I miss anything, you've done research. Perfect. I love
if
that.
it's the same one.
I think so. I think it'll be like I said briefly before we started recording this, and I, didn't want to tell you what I was talking about. It's something that like has so much about it and yet nothing about it. So you'll notice that I chose to write this in first person point of view, which I don't often do. Like I prefer to write in third person. Yeah, this actually happened to me.
So you've seen the Hat Man?
Yeah, legit thing. This is the Hat Man. Yes, legit thing.
Oh man! That I got chills.
Yeah,
I got
legit,
chills.
legit. And I know it's kind of different for everyone. Like it's one of those. Hat Man is one of those things where even though certain details might be different for each person, like experiencing this, like having an encounter with the Hat Man, it all boils down to basically the same uncomfortable, eerie feeling surrounding it. And it's not specific to sleep paralysis, but yeah, legitimately, I'm one of those people that has seen the Hat Man because I experienced sleep paralysis after taking Benadryl.
Oh yeah, this is like one of my nightmares. Like it's like I
thought it was fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
Hat Man is really creepy.
Insanely vivid dreams, and it was just like a repeat dream. And I thought, oh, this is solely because I took Benadryl. Like that's the common factor in these two instances. And then I started seeing fucking memes about how Benadryl makes you see the Hat Man, and I'm like, okay, so clearly this is not just a me thing.
No, it is not.
But I don't personally know anyone else that has had this experience. But yeah.
I mean, I haven't had this experience, but like I know of it because like again, like I said, I was almost tempted to write about this like last night because
So
like I was thinking about like so again, all these stories that we do at the very beginning of a stream are actually written by us. So we write these stories fresh sometimes the day before streaming or the day before a recording and stuff like that to kind of get things going and keep things fresh and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes every now and then we'll start writing a story, and the story just doesn't vibe, and we'll switch gears and go to another story. And we've done that several times where it's like this week's episode was supposed to be this, and then I was just like, I hated that story, and I wrote something else and went with this. So like Hatman was definitely one of those ones where like I had it tapped. And I'm about to scare the shit out of people. Typically when I am researching and doing things, I will keep between 30 and 70 tabs open on Chrome.
Ow. Ow.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not, but continue.
Everybody hates me. When I'm on Twitch, people are like, how many tabs you got open? I'm like, I don't run tabs when I'm streaming. I don't have a computer that can do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like you're smart about it.
But typically I'm running like 30 to 35 tabs on.
Alternative to that is just to like put stuff in a Word document. So I mean, like, I'm not much better.
Yeah. But yeah, so like up until probably yesterday, I actually had Hatman tabs open.
Which is funny because, and I know we've talked about this before, but if you didn't know or you're new and have never heard us say this before, first, hi, welcome, hope you're enjoying. But second, we don't tell each other what we're going to write about before we do it, unless it's something that we so strongly want to discuss, we want to deter the other person from doing any research on it.
Mm.
This is not one of the things we previously discussed.
Yeah, like the only thing the only things that we've like made sure about that, like for example, like I did the Jersey Devil, you did Krampus, and you have Mothman. Like yes. I know I can't do a Mothman story. Speaking of which, I was just like, oh yeah, I cleared off of my tabs. No, I didn't. I just checked. I still have Hatman tapped. I have a UK story out of the week. Tabbed. It's like, who is the Hatman? The nightmare shared by dreamers around the world. And yeah, I had, like I said, I had this tabbed. And I was thinking, it's like, I could write a pretty good story about this. But not as good as you, because you actually lived it, so.
Yes, unfortunately. But, like, like I'm sure you realized in the research that you did, there's a lot to be said about the Hatman, and yet also not a lot to be said about the Hatman.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Yeah, this for me ended up being one of those. I wasn't sure what I wanted to write about for this recording session, and it hit me, and I'm like, oh my god, I have yet to talk about this. Not with anyone, but like with you. So I'm like, it's perfect. Like, Paul's never heard the story before, and now everyone else on our podcast that has yet to hear the story will get to hear it too.
Yeah, Hatman is creepy. Like, so there's like a literally like a whole thing. There's like a blog devoted to just the Hatman. It's called the Hatman Project, where people like do their everybody shares their stories of that.
Yeah. Like, there's also been, I'm sure there's books. There's been a video game. There's been a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a documentary. Could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a common phenomena that I didn't realize was common. Like, I don't know. The Hatman is both vague and specific. So to me, I'm like, oh, this Hatman that I've seen surely isn't like the Hatman that people talk about. Mine's different.
Yes, it is absolutely the Hatman that people talk about.
Yeah, like he doesn't have the same. This just sounds so funny to me because he's not like if you don't know who the Hatman is, like this is news to you. The Hatman is a shadow person, and I'll talk more about what that is, or at least believed to be a shadow person. But just from name alone, shadow person is just that. It's the outline, the vague outline of a person in a shadow. Like there's no details. You don't see anything. So for me, the Hatman appeared to me as like this shadow figure in my doorway with no face, no defining features. I could just see the wide brim of a hat, and to me, it wasn't a top hat. It was more like rounded, like there's a curve on the top. It was kind of like, it reminds me of like an old timey like Undertaker's hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
Undertaker's hat, or you're talking like Tombstone kind of thing, like that flat top That flat
Yeah,
top, wide brimmed hat, yes.
yeah, and not, not like a top hat, not like a cowboy hat, nothing like that.
Mm.
And he didn't have, like, it was just like wide brim of a hat, where a head would be, neck, shoulders. So like no other defining features, like, and like I couldn't see feet or anything, and I didn't hear any footsteps. Like there's like very, very much like no defining features.
Mm.
So it's like vaguely seeing a person in your home staring at you while you're asleep. You're not able to do anything about it. You can't move. You can't speak. You can't say anything to them. And this person doesn't even have a face. But like you can feel like the judgmental like eyes just staring at you.
Mm.
Despite not being able to see any eyes. It's like all on feeling alone. And the only thing I'm able to move at this point is my eyes, but yet I was like compelled in a way to not look away. Kind of like how if you have the best thing I could equate it to, like if you have arachnophobia, or like even just not specific to spiders, but like bugs, and you're like of the mind of like, oh, if I look away from this, I'm gonna lose it. It's gonna disappear. It's kind of like that. It was like I felt compelled to continue to stare at this man so it wouldn't move, until eventually it just did, and it just like receded back into the hallway out of my line of sight, and then I fell back to sleep.
Also,
And I think,
randomly, people that don't necessarily see Hatman but still suffer from this situation with sleep paralysis. You actually said that one of the things that they often have nightmares about are actually spiders and insects.
yeah,
So
funny enough.
yeah,
I didn't want
yeah.
to, I don't know. I didn't want to say like too much on it because I figured, this is kind of a side story from sleep paralysis. Like that's still
Mm-hmm.
something we could definitely cover. So I don't want to go too deep into sleep paralysis, but yeah, that funny enough has to do with like the feeling of like insects.
Yep. And there's
I don't.
there's several different types of things that you deal with the sleep paralysis, but like specifically the Hat Man is like it's phenomenon onto itself. Like sometimes you'll see you'll deal with demons, like there are sleep paralysis demons where it's like you feel like something is sitting on your chest and you might have that thing, but it's not necessarily the Hat Man one's doing it, where like you just feel like something's there. But yeah, like this is the first time this has happened where like I was like days away from writing this story.
And
And
I already did it.
it's fine. I mean, it's fine. I can close these tabs and I don't have to worry about writing it. But
Yeah, how funny is that? Like without, like we're that in tune, we're so in sync. We didn't even talk about it.
mm,
And I chose now, like before you had done it,
yeah, because like
to
I
do it.
was half tempted to do it last night.
I have another I have a lot of personal experiences that could make good stories for this podcast, but I had another one in mind that I was going to talk about. And then this hit me, that this had happened to me, and I'm like, no, this, like, now, for whatever reason, I'm like, no, now is the time that I write this story. So it's funny. It's like I was in tune to you in a way, like, oh, I gotta do it before Paul does, huh? But
Well, it would have been funny because you would have been the opposite, where like I would have all this information, you'd be like, yeah, and I have all this real life,
yeah,
real
I was
life
like, all right, well, dude, I
anecdotal
have a
evidence.
story for you.
Yeah. No,
So
all the times we've hung out, you've never told me about this story before.
no, no. Both of them have happened since we've become friends. So,
Really?
yeah, so in a very short period of time.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, because you and I have been friends for a while, but still, like,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's still very recent. Um,
I mean, we're coming up on a decade, but
yeah, we are, but not there yet. So within the last decade, both of these
mhm.
instances have happened. Because I don't, like, I'm fortunate that I don't really have allergies. Like, I shouldn't say I'm not allergic to anything, because, I'm sure there are things I don't know about because they're so minor that I just attribute it to, like, something else. But, yeah, I was prescribed an antibiotic for an issue I was having, despite having it noted like that I have a family history of allergies to this type of drug. And they gave it to me anyway, and I wasn't aware that this fell into that like drug family.
Mm.
So I had taken it, and it, you know, cleared up the issues I was having. But then, like a week later, like a delayed response, I broke out in hives. And I had no, like, I didn't know why. Like I had no reason for like breaking out in hives. Because like I've gotten stress related like rashes before and stuff, but like I broke out in hives. And it
Is that that
wasn't a,
one time where you were out of commission for like a couple of months?
yeah,
Okay, that time.
yeah. And it was real weird. That was the first time. And then the more recent time was like within the last 6 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
And I just didn't talk about it. Because I'm like, nope, like talking about it makes it real. Talking about it makes it real, so I didn't want to talk about it. Um, but now it's like, now that I'm more aware of the fact that like this is not just a me thing, I feel less frightened of it.
Oh yeah, hell no. This is 100%
Yeah.
not a you thing. This is so much. This like this phenomenon created one of the most like famous horror franchises ever.
Really?
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger is a Hat Man.
Oh, well, okay. I guess I didn't see, and again, like I didn't draw the correlation to that because Hatman has appeared to me with no facial features.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm running from him. It's not like a Freddy Krueger thing to me.
Mm.
But I
Well,
see it,
no,
yeah.
it's
But I can
different, but
see the
yes,
correlation. Yeah.
yeah. The whole
I could definitely.
concept of you being unable to help yourself in a store in a dream, and
Yeah, I
and
could totally
the
see that.
the notion that if you die in your dreams, you can
You
die
die
in
in real
reality,
life.
kind of thing, and that all sprung forth the idea of Freddy Krueger, and he is a Hat Man. He is.
What?
I mean, obviously, it's different than. It definitely takes some liberties with kind of the concept, but at the heart of the story, Freddy Krueger's a Hat Man.
Yeah, I did not draw that correlation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it's because I spent a while being like, nope, not real, not talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at that. So back to the idea of Hatman being a shadow person.
Mm-hmm. The less dangerous of the group. Yeah.
Yes. Because Hatman, the origin of Hatman is again like vague. There's no like concrete. This is why this happens. Like this is where this came from. It's not a haunting. It's not a concrete thing. It's like enough people have experienced this phenomenon that it has to be from something.
Well, through some of the research that I did about Hat Man,
Mm.
the prevailing theory, or at least it's been written about, our brains, you know, like what body matrixing is, right?
Mhm. But explain for those that
Okay,
don't.
so for those who don't know what body matrixing is, our brain is constantly trying to make sense of reality and things like that. When we are it goes back to like lizard brain, like predatory responses and all that kind of stuff. Our brain is constantly trying to put things into a reality that we can digest. And what they think is happening with the Hat Man phenomenon is you are seeing shapes in the darkness, and your brain is matrixing that into something tangible that you can understand. And for one reason or another, that takes the shape of a man in a hat. And that's why it's usually not corporeal. That's usually why you can't see the face. It's just close enough to where your brain can recognize man, hat, and that's what happens. So like, have you ever gone to sleep and you like wake up in the middle of the night and you look over and you're like, oh my god, someone's there, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's just a pile of clothes on my chair, but
Or
like
for
in the
me, like a common experience, I have next to my bed, I have a hook for my robe. So I can't tell you the number of times that I've woken up, saw, like my robe on the hook and been like, holy shit, there's a person right next to me. And it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, so your brain
Yeah.
matrixes that together, and that's kind of what is happening. Is your brain sees just an amorphous shape. It could be just a darker shadow than other places, and then your brain is going to try to matrix that. You'll see it a lot in haunted houses. Like you'll see like very dirty windows, and people are like, "No, there's a person there," and that's just because your brain has like seen squiggly lines here and there, and there's enough information in those squiggly lines to form a face in your brain. And then it's just like, nope, there's a face in that window, and there might not actually be a face in the window, but because there's just enough of like light refraction and cracks or imperfections in that window, your brain sees face. And I could I there was I when I first started driving, right down the street, there was I've had this happen a lot where I've seen a person in this window, and as I've like when you're driving by, like this is an abandoned building, nobody lives here, nobody's in this thing, but I would always swear to God I saw a face, and until one day I like broke down. I was just like, I need to see what the hell I'm seeing. So I drove up at like 2 miles an hour instead of like 30 miles an hour. And then when I got through, there was a tan like coat that had uh just like stains from like shoe polish or whatever it was, because um it was just a polish factory or a polish company and stuff like that. Like they did things like that. And when you look at it from the right angle, if you squint and kind of like contort, it looks a little bit like a face. So what
And if you're
happens is
not
when
expecting it,
yeah, so when you're not expecting it, your brain is instantly going to matrix that. So when you're driving by that at 30 miles an hour and you're not getting as much information, your brain is making that logical leap with the information it has, and your brain is always going to try to make it tangible in something that's going to be like towards you. So like it's always going to be that predatory response, another human being, because for us, one of the most dangerous things is other humans. So your brain is always going to be like, other human, probably we should stay away from there. So
yeah, it's
that's
like
what the
it's like the psychological response of, fight or flight, like
yeah.
constantly being on your guard. But
Mm-hmm.
also in 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 the example of your situation, like if you hadn't gone up, like gone back to it to
Mm-hmm.
debunk it for yourself, like if you're just somebody who's like never been in this area before driving through, like of course you're not expecting to see something like that, so
Mm-hmm.
it's only natural that like that was a person, like the first like tangible thing that your psyche can go to is that's a person.
Mm-hmm.
So like now imagining it in the sense of the sleep paralysis state, like the psychological response of I'm still not fully awake, like my brain's not at like full function.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a person there. Like that
Exactly.
shadow is a person.
Exactly. And that's kind of what, at least some of the papers that from like neuroscientists and all that kind of stuff, like that's their thought process, is that our brain is basically just like matrixing something there that is not. And your brain understands the information that you're getting to, but like you don't necessarily see that. So like for example, like the tan thing, you could only see it like certain times of the day because like the light refracting, the amount of light that you needed, like there's a lot of things that went into play to get that to look like a face.
Right. So
And
like
like if you went there at like
scientifically,
2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun's just not hitting that window at the right angle. But if you went there at like 5, where it's like dusk, and then
golden hour.
all of a sudden it's like boom, right there, face. So like that's kind of how it is at night. At night you don't necessarily like in the middle of the night when you're coming out of sleep where you're not really asleep, or you're like lucid dreaming, and you've come out of REM sleep but your body hasn't like come out of REM sleep also, like you're not in a position to really see the depths of shadows. So like if a shadow is being cast from like a circular shape, but it's like being cast onto another shadow, like you with your eyes might not see that, but your brain is like, oh, information, I know what this is, face, hat, and that's kind of where it's coming from.
So, like, scientifically, there is a reason why shadow people exist.
Yes.
Like, our brain, for to sum up basically what you said, like, our brain sees these things and immediately is like, what's our biggest threat? Like, it must be that. Like, so you're on your guard, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like people that experience like sleep deprivation hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
Like like in your delirium, like the first thing that you're going to see is a person. Like, you're not going to think there's like, a dog there. You're not going to think it's like a tree or a car, or like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to immediately think like this is a person and they're out to get me.
Yes. So,
But it's
so the,
funny
the
that
the paper that was talking about is a 2017 paper by Baland Jalal and V.S. Uh, Ramachandran. And basically, what happens is uh, rapid eye movement sleep often creates more emotional and charged dreams. So our brain paralyzes our bodies to ensure that we don't hurt ourselves. Sometimes we wake up mentally while still under the uh, effects of REM paralysis, and the vivid, sometimes terrifying dreams of REM sleep can spill over to the emerging wakefulness. And they theorize that part of the brain responsible for processing the body map and self is disturbed, and often resulting in the dreamer projecting a human-like figure.
so there you go, scientifically.
Yeah, so that's basically what it is, or at least
And
that's the theory.
but it's funny to me that this phenomena, this urban legend of the Hat Man, is explained by science. Like, there's often like paranormal things where it's like, oh, you can explain this away with science, as opposed to like, no, you can use science to back up your point for this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, science explains why we see shadow people, but the fact of the matter is, we're still experiencing shadow people that are like a standard in a way. Like, again, like
Mm-hmm.
you can still see different variations on the Hat Man, but like the Hat Man is an urban legend or is a phenomena because enough people have experienced specifically that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
that's
yet
kind of
science isn't explaining it away. It's just backing it up. It's
mm-hmm.
crazy.
That's kind of how it is with like the when people die and they just like, well, I saw a tunnel of light. Well, there's theories as to where like that is a similar shared response to like the Hat Man. It all kind of falls under the thing of your brain trying to make sense of something, where like it might be like your eyes are trying to to like focus on something, and like for example, like if you're dying, you're more likely in a hospital, and then you have those ring lights that keep everything up on your face, so you see that, and your brain is like tunnel of light. So some people have theorized that it's a similar response where your brain is just taking whatever kind of information is coming at it and trying to make sense of it. So while the Hat Man is like the weird response, there's a lot of stuff that like in our day to day or in our our shared experiences, like you'll see a lot of that kind of weirdness,
Right.
and it's odd. It's very odd that like, for example, like it's like the other weird phenomenon is like when you have like alien abduction stories.
Yeah.
It's weird because like whether or not you believe in aliens, I believe in aliens. I don't think that they've been here because from the human experience, whenever a more technologically advanced species finds a less technologically advanced species, we either kill it or subjugate it. So, like, in my brain, I was like, aliens haven't gotten here yet because we haven't been taken over.
We should
Okay.
definitely save that for another episode though, with the alien stuff. Like there's a lot that could be said about that. And I don't entirely agree with you, but I also don't think that you're wrong. So I want to save that debate for another thing because that'll just make this episode insanely long. If we
Yeah.
sidebar onto that.
Again, that's just my personal theory. It's like I don't know if
Right.
we aliens have existed, but I think well, I think aliens exist, but I just don't think that like they've been here just because, again, a lot of that kind of stuff, like when you're talking about shared experiences and shared all this kind of stuff, a lot of that is basically just like you have these theories of parallel thinking where people are just like, well, how did the Egyptians have pyramids and how did the Mayans have pyramids? Well, it's just parallel thinking and geometric shapes and things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that like we were all touched by the same beings. So yeah, yeah, but like I think that all kind of lends itself to the idea that there of the Hat Man is that you have all of these unrelated people and all of these unrelated situations that have bore out the same weird phenomenon. And if you believe the Hat Man exists, awesome. But if you don't believe in the Hat Man exists, it's basically just your brain kind of like matrixing something to kind of make the world make sense. So you have that same situation if you talking about aliens and like the types of things that we've created in our world. Like I think it's the same situation where it's just like, no, aliens didn't help the pyramids get made in Egypt and central Mexico. We just we like shapes.
Yeah. I just for me, like so my experience with the Hat Man, right, has only ever been the times I've taken Benadryl. I've never seen him before that. I've never seen him since then, and I've never seen him without it. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also the only times I ever experienced sleep paralysis. Was I took Benadryl, experienced sleep paralysis, saw the Hat Man, and woke up, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing. You know, like I was okay. Nothing happened to me. I did a little bit of research onto like the Hat Man itself, and realized that it because this was the second time that it happened to me. So I was like, okay, like obviously there's a reason that this has happened a second time. And that's when I realized, like, okay, this is a thing that happens to a bunch of people. I don't know why I didn't look the first time. I think the first time I just like wanted to deny that that was an experience that I had.
Yeah, it's just like this didn't happen. There wasn't a person in my.
Like, no, it was just a dream. It was not sleep paralysis. It was a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to look into it the second time, and I found that yeah, other people had my experience. Like they took Benadryl specifically, took
Mm-hmm.
Benadryl, experienced sleep paralysis, and saw the Hat Man. Like if I hadn't seen the Hat Man, like I don't think I ever would have realized that this is something that happens to other people.
Well, again, that kind of like lends itself to the whole theory from that paper that was written is that like for some reason we're interrupted in our REM sleep, and so like we come out of it from a conscious level, like we're awake, but because like the REM sleep hasn't caught up and kind of like unlocked our body, that we're stuck in
Right.
that sleep paralysis. So
But what's
the idea
so
of the idea of it being Benadryl related is that like the Benadryl is kind of prematurely putting you to sleep, and then when it wears off, like it wears off in a way that like you're not fully awake, and that's where like that it's a possibility that like that's the link that there's some kind of causality that like you're taking something that is probably putting you to sleep quicker than it should. Sometimes it could be even alcohol. Like maybe I haven't done enough research to see if like alcohol is a similar response, but like Benadryl sounds like it could very much be that kind of situation where like it puts you to sleep and like your body wasn't ready to go to sleep. So when it
right.
wears off, your body wasn't ready to wake up.
As far as like research goes, like I would have to do some research into this, but I'd be curious to see the experiences or even like shared experiences of people that woke up under anesthesia because that's never happened to me. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious if something similar would happen in that sense because in that case, I think it would be even more terrifying, because like I'm under anesthesia for a reason, usually a medical procedure. So there I am, like awake when I'm not supposed to be when there's doctors, and like now potentially like shadow people too. But what makes it feel the most bizarre to me, I guess, is that I do like everything I told in the story at the beginning of this was about me. It was like my real life experiences. It was recounting that. I have always had trouble sleeping. I don't often hit REM sleep. It's part of why I constantly feel tired. Like I wake up feeling exhausted. I don't feel like I rested at all. So to me, like I love sleeping, but I'm also like at the point of I don't sleep well. So much so that I'm like, I wish I didn't have to sleep because I'd be more productive. But yeah, seriously, like I would, if I wasn't so tired all the time, like if I didn't have to sleep, I feel like I would be more productive because I don't get like restful, meaningful sleep the way it is. But I think because of the Benadryl, I did hit REM sleep. Like obviously, like I do, because I
Mm-hmm.
do have very vivid dreams. Like I do dream
Mm-hmm.
often enough
You
and
just don't.
remember it.
You just don't stay in REM.
Yes. I do dream often enough and remember it that I am hitting REM sleep. I am getting at least, some hours of restful sleep a night.
Mm.
I don't stay in REM sleep for a very long period of time. And I'm a light sleeper, and it's not something that I've experienced without the Benadryl. I think, because I don't often hit REM sleep and stay
Mm.
there.
It's very
But
possible.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's just the irony of, oh, this thing knocks me out so that I actually get sleep causes me to also have sleep paralysis and see the Hat Man. Like, like what luck? What terrible luck. Because it doesn't
Yeah.
happen to me if I take NyQuil. Like if I'm sick and I take NyQuil, I'll have like very vivid dreams that are sometimes scary, but like they're dreams. I'm not experiencing sleep paralysis. Like I'm straight up just waking up.
It could just be like the strength of the medication. Like if you took enough NyQuil, and I'm not saying it's like experiment, take half a bottle. No, like
Yeah, don't do
uh,
that. Like we're not
no,
advocating for
yes,
that. But
we're not saying to tell you how to sleep to find the Hat Man. Don't do this, but like it's possibility like it's just the strength of the medication is what's kind of like helping you, or in this case hindering you from
yeah,
that kind. I can't relate. I
I'm
am
curious to
when I go to
see.
sleep, I am done. Like I am dead to the world. I have slept
God,
through earthquakes. I've slept through earthquakes and
better.
hurricanes.
I can't even sleep through thunder sometimes. Like sucks. But I'm curious to see, now that I'm going to try because I'm not, but I'm curious to see if I took like a half a Benadryl, like a half dose, if I would have the same problem or if it would just like be a normal sleep for me, like a normal night's sleep, but it would help the itching. Like if it would
Mm-hmm.
do the desired effect of taking the full dose
I mean, could be
without
interesting.
taking sleep paralysis. But I'm not trying it.
Because you're like, I don't want to see him.
And the irony is the only reason we even had Benadryl at all, because like Tom doesn't have strong allergies either. Like he's like me. The only reason we had it at all is because we were trying it for the dog, because she has bad allergies.
Oh.
And like we've like experimented with different food for her. We've talked to her vet. Like we've gotten different medications for her. But like one of the things that we tried at one point when there was a shortage on the type of medication that we got from the vet was like, try Benadryl. But like, this dosage and this, like gave us all the instructions. Like I'm not saying I like, negligently gave my dog Benadryl. Like I'm not saying that at all. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the reason we had it. Like we wouldn't have even like I would have been in a point where like I just didn't even have anything at all and I had to deal with it because it was the middle of the night. But we had it and I'm like, this is bothering me enough that I have to do something. I tried it and this happened to me. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
No, and you know what it was? Like it was my hands and my wrists. That's what was itching me. It was the only part of my body that was itching me, and it was my hands and my wrists, like even like my individual like fingers.
Oh, that's weird.
So it's like being like painfully aware of like your fingertips and your fingers because they're just itching and uncomfortable. It's like wearing gloves made of like pins and needles.
Mm-mm.
Like
No.
that's the feeling that I was experiencing, that I'm like I'm desperate to not feel this right now.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
worked. Like I wasn't feeling that, but then the Hat Man showed up, and then I'm happy to say that like nothing detrimentally awful happened to me after seeing the Hat Man both times. So like I don't think it was because there are many instances where people are like, oh, the Hat Man is an omen. Like he's coming to warn you of like impending doom, like terrible things.
Mm.
I'm happy to say that didn't happen to me. Like nothing detrimentally awful happened to me that I would attribute it to being like, oh, he came to warn me about that.
Well, that's good at least.
But I still don't want to see him again. Like he had no face. Like not even like the vague outline of facial features. Like I saw nothing but shadow. And yet I could still feel like I was just being stared at.
Mm.
It was like, you know, when you're playing a game or watching a movie and like there it is, the jump scare that you know is coming, but even though you're expecting it, you're still like it's going to scare the shit out of you, like you're waiting for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that. It was like the moment before a jump scare where you're like, I know this is going to happen. Just do the thing. Just get it over with. Just scare me. But it never happened. So it was just like that agony of sitting there like knowing this is going to happen to you and like not wanting it to and like being tense and like bracing yourself for it, and then it just didn't happen.
Hmm.
Yes, it was very, very strange feeling. Like I didn't feel scared like waking up, you know what I mean? Like when I actually woke up later and the sun was out and everything, it wasn't like I was startled awake. It was just like this happened to me earlier and I don't have an explanation for that. And I didn't feel like I was in danger. Like it was definitely a feeling of like I was coming out of my body,
Mm-hmm.
but not quite an out of body experience. Because again, I still felt like I couldn't move, you know? But
Yeah, I'll
it
actually send you
wasn't
this article because like
to
the
it.
one that I was talking about, it was just like it's
Yeah.
actually describing all of the things that you're talking about, and
Yeah.
it's the same thought process that kind of goes into why we see like why we might see the Hat Man. I think you
Right.
might. It's a short article, so I think you might actually like
Oh,
it.
I'll definitely take a look at that. Thank you. But yeah, it wasn't like, it's a very strange amalgamation of feelings to describe like that time that I spent in sleep paralysis, like with the Hat Man.
Mm-hmm.
My time with the Hat Man. But uh, it wasn't like, it was, I describe it as terrifying, but like it also like, it wasn't in the same sense. Like I never felt at any point that like I was in danger. Like I
Mm-hmm.
definitely had the accelerated heart rate, like the anticipation of what's going to happen, like what is going on right now. Like I definitely had that feeling, but I never felt like I was about to be like harmed. Like I didn't think, which is why it's funny to me that like I didn't draw the correlation to Freddy Krueger, because like if
Mm-hmm.
I had, like yes, I would have felt like, maybe if I had felt like this was a threatening entity, I would have gotten that correlation quicker, but I never felt like it was threatening. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to understand like what it means to me. Like why did I see the Hat Man twice in the same exact situation?
I
I
think it could. I think it
yeah,
just could be it. Is that you don't necessarily stay in REM sleep often enough for it to like help you, and Benadryl kind of like trapped you in that situation where you were
right.
like stuck in
But
REM.
why the Hat Man? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like why out of any other like sleep paralysis demon was it the Hat Man? Like why didn't I see like a little creepy goblin thing like sitting on my chest, boring its eyes into my face? You know, like why was it the Hat Man? And I
we
still don't
may
know.
we may never know. Science doesn't really know. Like this is like an explainer, it's a theory, but like they don't actually know why the Hat Man exists.
Yeah, because I mean, running off the theory of Hat Man being like an urban legend of a shadow person, like, you know, many cultures believe, you know, shadow people to be like a jinn,
Well, I think another
you know?
version of the Hat Man would be the Babadook, wouldn't it?
Don't bring him up.
Like it like
Don't bring him up.
isn't that a Hat Man?
Yeah, please don't bring him up. I'm very scared. I'm not kidding. I'm terrified of that thing.
The
Don't. You're not funny. Tom already told me to turn it
sorry.
off. It's okay. Well, no, because you know how I have. Here I am, like, oh, I want to be able to hang up my robe at night when I'm not wearing it because I don't want to just leave it on the floor. Like, I'm trying to be tidy. So I give myself a nice little Hello Kitty hook to hang my jacket on, my robe. It's a Hello Kitty hook, like a very soft, fuzzy, not threatening thing at all, right?
Mm.
And then Tom's like, you know, one of these nights that I actually end up falling asleep after you because I usually am up later than Tom. It's like one of these nights where I'm up later than you. I'm gonna put a pair of boots and a hat there.
Oh my god, that'd be horrible.
He's like, I'm gonna do it. I just want to see if you wake up and see it or if you happen to wake up in the morning and see it. Like, he's like, I just want to know if you end up waking up in the middle of the night and seeing it. He's like, so here you go. Here's my, I'm warning you that I'm going to do it, but you don't know when it's going to happen.
He's gonna
I'm
wake
like,
up. He's gonna
I'm like,
wake
I
up, and then
really
you
hope
you're
that
gonna
you're
be
kidding.
you're gonna be dead because you had a heart attack. Seeing a
No.
person.
No. If that happens, like, if he actually does it, I don't know that he would. Like, he's not mean to me, but if he actually did that,
Mm-hmm.
I would immediately wake him up.
You're
Like,
fighting.
my reaction to it, like, he'd immediately be woken up, and then he'd be laughing, and then I'd be hitting him very hard with a pillow. Like, this isn't funny. That's so mean. I can't believe you did that.
That would be messed up.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, in a sick, twisted way, I'm proud of it because, like, that's the type of prank I would pull. But also, like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Like, Tom isn't. I'm afraid of the dark too. Like, he's not afraid of the dark, so that's even worse to do to me.
I think that also lends itself to the whole idea of the Hat Man too. It's
Oh, it absolutely does.
like I think
Because the
maybe
only
that
light,
fear of the darkness is also why your brain is just like person.
well, the only light that I have now as an adult is coming in the hallway. So, like, exactly where I saw, like, the doorway that I saw the Hat Man in,
Mm-hmm.
he would be backlit like that. It would be a shadow. So that made it
Mm-hmm.
even more real to me. And, like, I was paralyzed and couldn't really look around. So, like, I couldn't even see if Tom was still next to me,
Mm-hmm.
in bed. So, like, it was also like oh, why is Tom standing in the doorway with a hat on just staring at me? But then, like,
That
you
would
know,
be so
he's
weird.
right, but, like, it's not him, and there's no face. It's just a shadowy figure. Like, nothing happened. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's just ironic to me. Um, Another personal story that I vaguely touched on in a
Yeah.
previous episode.
Yeah.
Uh, and will tell the full story in the future. Um, I don't sleep with my bedroom door open.
Well, I wouldn't now too.
But this is before the sleep paralysis. Like, I don't sleep with my door open. So it's also like the awful, like, perfect storm of I happened to take Benadryl on a night that our bedroom door was open when I was sleeping, and this happened. Because uh, when we have Mabel, we do leave the door open, usually cracked, not fully wide open like this was,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll leave the door cracked. Um, we normally don't because A, my personal reasons that I'll eventually touch on, and B, I have a cat who, cats are nocturnal, so if I leave the door open, he's just going to come in and wake me up and run amok. But
Yeah. No.
when we have her, I usually leave it open because it sticks. So, like, because it's usually me because I don't sleep, if I'm woken up by the dog because she wants to go out, we have the door cracked so that I don't, you know, pull it open because it gets stuck and wake Tom up.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa, because I'm such a light sleeper, if Tom gets up with the dog, it won't wake me up because he's not, the door's not getting stuck because he doesn't have to pull to get it unstuck. So it just happened to be at a time when it was the perfect combination of terrible things
Mm-hmm.
for me to happen, that this happened to me. So, like, I tried to explain it away with, oh, like, I don't like sleeping with the door open. The door happened to be open. Like, it was just like my mind playing tricks on me. And in a way, that's true, but it's not because of that. It's not because the door was open. Because with the paralysis and seeing the Hat Man, like, door was fully wide open. Like, he was standing in the door frame in the part of the door frame where the door would have to be wide open for me to see him. And it was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how it was when I went to sleep. And that's also not how it was when I woke up. Like, it was still cracked how I left it. So it's also like my my bedroom, like the way that I did when I had sleep paralysis was not the way that it was when I went to sleep, and it's not the way
Mm-hmm.
that it was when I woke up. So it's like also like my brain processing, like the whole Matrix thing, like my
Mm-hmm.
brain processing like my room, but not at that exact moment in reality, but not in a way that I would see it and be like, oh, I'm clearly dreaming because this is not how my room looks. The mind is fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
The mind is so fascinating, which is also another reason why I wanted to talk about this specifically. Like, I think why this week, this recording session, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, this is the time. It has to be now. Because, like, the human brain is so fascinating. Like, I'm not a huge science person. Like, I believe in science, but like it's not a special interest of mine the way that it is for a lot of people. Like my biggest science special interest is like astronomy, but yeah, like neuroscience is really cool.
Mm-hmm. All right,
So
so we
I
know.
think that was yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
it. I think that's everything that I wanted to touch on with the Hat Man.
So yes, no Benadryl unless you want to see a weird, creepy guy over your bed.
Or for other people that aren't me, use Benadryl at your own risk.
Yeah, we're not advocating this.
Possible side effects might include sleep paralysis, demons in the form of the Hat Man. And remember, last one out douses the fire. If you heard something, no, you didn't. And if you're here with us next time, that means you made it to morning.